when I die, how I die, why I'm going to die, that's a sign.
One key thing about that, and that's my fear, it's the length of time. All of us has experienced depression here.
Yes.
That is, your parents could have died and you're not feeling good for a while. Please understand, it's the length of time. Do not think just because somebody's changed today or for a week, they're going through something. They're not clinically depressed. They might be depressed for a moment. Everybody experiences depression, but you have to be careful when you tell people the length of time. And it's 5 out of 9 criteria, sir.
Actually, it's actually 2 out of 9.
Well, they will change it again.
It's 2 out of 9 criteria. Any 2 out of 9 criteria.
They changed it again.
The other thing I wanted to suggest, and you just raised that, is that somebody who's dealing with depression and is suicidal will normally start planning their method of suicide at least 6 months before they do it. They will normally also telegraph. They will tell people up to 3 months before. And 3 weeks before they commit the actual suicide, they will tell someone what they are going to do.
There's spontaneous suicide.
Yes,
But there is spontaneous suicide. Spontaneous suicide is not the byproduct of a chronic depression. It is spontaneous. So somebody decide they smoke some weed that lays with LSD, and they're going to jump off a building thinking they're going to fly.
Yeah,
That is
that's
spontaneous suicide. However, the fact that the person is going to smoke weed laced with LSD means that they may also be experiencing another form of mental illness that precipitate and cause them to go use that as escape. So the suicide is no longer spontaneous. It was already planned. But the execution is different. So there is understanding these things. So somebody 3 weeks before they commit suicide, they are likely to tell you. They are likely to tell the person closest to them who they feel more comfortable. And the question then is the onus and the responsibility that each of us have for the other is if you tell me that you're not feeling good and you want to harm yourself, my responsibility to put aside my own religious belief, put aside my own feelings, is say, how can I help you? Would you be willing to speak to somebody professionally? And you take it upon yourself to find out whoever you can find. Search high and low to find somebody professional, because that one life is very, very precious.
That's right. We have to move to you because she's been waiting a while.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
My name is Nicole Cole. I am a professional clinical social worker, thanks to the USA. I would have worked extensively on the Guyana HIV/AIDS Reduction Project for the past 7 years. And I represent Citizens Against Rape, which is a newly formed NGO. And I have experience in trying alternatives to treating depression, what I would have observed in the patients who I worked with. And I've used play and art therapy successfully in Guyana to treat depression in those patients. 21 persons graduated in 2012 from a project that was supported by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Guyana Red Cross, Ministry of Health, and Guyana's Lone Art School, Burroughs School of Art. Now, alternatives to treating depression is very important, and as a professional clinical social worker, of course, in doing continuous professional development, I recently completed a course via University of Liverpool, which I have the book here by Professor Peter Kinderman, who is preferring in a new approach to treating mental health, and not only the biomedical approach. So the approach that I would have used, an alternative, meaning play and art therapy, is what is used. Also laughter. I know that in the USA, there are laughter clinics, making people laugh more, happy. Happy people are less prone to commit suicide. And so the question we need to ask, are we a happy nation? Do we have happy people? Are happy people, happy communities, happy societies? No, it's a very relevant question. And how often do you laugh? Do you know what happens when you laugh? It's a positive endorphin that is released, and then you should be able to laugh more. So I, as a clinical social worker, would recommend people look at cartoons, Bugs Bunny, look at things that makes you laugh and just feel funny. I love Kung Fu Panda, so I give that a lot. So a root cause I found last year when I dealt with a young man who attempted suicide 14 times. I was successful in getting him to live. All 14 times he put it through, but what I found, our underlying cause for suicide is attention-seeking behavior. He would threaten suicide when he wanted attention. And so what I did, every time he threatened suicide, I said, come over and talk to me. Let us talk. I left my phone on so he can call at any time, and we will talk until, 2 o'clock. And I want you to know that those of us who work with persons who display this behavior, people call us at any time. I leave my phone open. You can text me, you can call, but after time it takes a toll on you. Who cares for the person? Who cares for the suicide persons? Who cares for the caregiver? Who cares for the social workers? Who care about us? So after time, I can remember asking Dr. Shanti Singh, who is the program director for the National AIDS Program Secretariat, who I would have worked with. What about us, the social workers, getting a retreat? Just to have us de-stress. Because after taking on all of the society's problems, we too can become depressed. A suicide counselor recently committed suicide himself. That was a bit distressing. So I'm here to offer the alternatives. I would suggest everyone try to get Professor Peter Kinderman's book. It's on Amazon.com. He is a medical doctor and head of the clinical psychology department, University of Liverpool, and he is promoting his work as an alternative to treating mental health, that we use more psychosocial approaches. I thank you.
I'm not going to apologize for doing this, but Nicole, can the Caribbean Vice depend on you to be a part of the process of moving forward? And thank you very much.
Laugh along if you... Good morning. Good morning. I'm Carice. I'm from the Guyana Foundation. There are a couple of things that I've made a note of. I'll just go ahead and say what I said. Everyone needs to see themselves as a first responder. So we all need to become experts in things to say and what not to say if we want to deal with the problem of suicide. And I see we've been given these lovely pins that have a tagline on it: suicide prevention is everybody's business. And so each of us needs to see ourselves as persons who can do something about it. I mean, yes, we sit in here and we come up with all of our opinions and all of that. But if we do not become experts in simple things like, okay, so somebody tells you, man, look, I feel like killing myself. Say, you lie. For true? We need to educate ourselves, as my granny was saying, on what little things can we as lay people say to a person or not say to a person or not do when somebody comes and says, I want to commit suicide. There is literature that is available. There's this awesome, awesome thing. You can take out your pens and write it down. It's called Google. Google.com. And thank you. All right, now obviously not everything that you find there would be helpful, but you will find some helpful things there. Yeah? Read the National Mental Health Strategy, the National Mental Health Action Plan, the National Suicide Strategy. And did you even know that these documents existed? Do you know where I found them? On Google. All right? And study them and see the things that have been proposed by the formerly the Ministry of Health, as well as the PAHO. They worked together very, very closely to ensure that this document was done. In that document, there are simple things like intersectoral collaboration. And so we are talking about the religious community, we're talking about schools, we're talking about family groups and different sociological